So, with us today on our edition of Brews and Barbells, the Babes of GPT, we have Dr. Sophia Veiras with us. And what are you drinking, Soph?
I have a Shock Top Belgian White.
All right, and we're drinking a little IPA over here.
Oh, you're fancy. I must admit, I'm more of a wine person. I'm a wimpy beer drinker, but I like the light pale ales and the ciders, like the girlier beers.
The crushable shit, the good stuff.
Exactly.
So why don't you give us a little introduction to yourself? Tell us how long you've been training for, what sport you train for, how you got into the sport.
So I'm Sophia, and I am a physical therapist in Milford, nearby in Connecticut, and I've been competitively training powerlifting for 7 years now. Yeah, so super exciting. Before this, I was actually a competitive wrestler. So I wrestled for 10 years from middle school, high school, and my first few years of college. And then kind of just, ended up transitioning to focusing on school with or with, physical therapy. And then just got a little bored, not really playing a sport. I was, doing the elliptical life and got bored. And my best friend took me to the gym. We started lifting weights, and then I joined the powerlifting team. And here I am 7 years later, still lifting.
And you lift both raw and equipped, correct?
Yes. And I've pretty much been doing both for 7 years, because I started out on the Northeastern powerlifting team, which is an equipped powerlifting team. So they pretty much just force you into gear from the get-go, and you just get good at it fast.
So I'm gonna ask you, between your two children, which is your favorite? Who do you love more?
Oh, who do I love more? Well, you know what? That's messed up, because if parents admit which kid they like more, they got to keep it down low. I like flipping back and forth. I like to kind of have a little bit, I think strong is strong. I want to be strong in both. That being said, I do kind of prefer the gear. I think there's a little bit more of a team element to it. You just need your squad to make things happen. But you get to hold more weight, and who doesn't want to hold more weight, right? Isn't that what we're all training for? So that's pretty cool too.
Absolutely. So within strength training, how is that? Have you noticed a carryover from the gym to regular life in terms of how it's made you feel?
Oh, definitely. I definitely think it has made me stronger physically and emotionally, and mentally too. I think you can just handle more. We were talking before this, and I had kind of a tough session, but, I mentally just kind of dug deep. I found what I needed to do and made it out. And sometimes, you just got to put one foot in front of the other and make something happen. And I think powerlifting really helped with carrying forward that mentality.
Absolutely. And I know that before the call, you and I were kind of talking a little bit about just mindset and emotions and how they can kind of play into a training session and really make it or break it for you that day. So, can you kind of walk us through your mindset tricks and tips for being a strength athlete?
Oh my gosh, I have so many of these. I love all of this. Okay, so I guess you start with kind of the psychological components of strength. A lot of it happens before we ever really even touch the barbell or go to the platform or even go to the gym. You want to have a positive mindset from the first place, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we're like, oh god, I saw what's on the program, I'm scared. But you can't go into that mindset. You're just gonna be like, you know what, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna crush it, and if I can't, then I'm gonna work with whatever I can and crush that. And make things happen. I'm a sucker for motivational videos. Especially there's a lot of good ones on YouTube from Matus M. I will admit I stole that one from Kim Walford.
Okay.
Yeah, she showed us his videos, and I was like, damn, this is badass. So I do listen to a lot of those. There's definitely some good podcasts out there. I love this book called Can't Hurt Me. That was really good to get me in the mindset last year for nationals. I listened to that twice and really powered my training. So those are some things I use for mindset. But you can also do like mental imagery, which I found to be helpful, particularly for meats. So kind of just like imagining the meat completely as vividly as possible before you even go to the meat. So I've already won the competition in my head before I even got there. You know, I've mentally practiced these lifts. I've already, you know, nailed the lifts. I've smoked them in my head. So now it's time to just go do them on the platform. But it's actually been shown in studies that physical practice plus mental practice is superior to just physical practice alone.
Damn, girl. I think we all have a lot to learn from you. I wish you would do like a seminar at GPT, for real. I think
Yeah, no, you can totally do it. Oh my God. I actually do want to do a seminar at GPT. That's coming soon whenever we can start planning for things like that. But a geared seminar will be coming out.
cannot wait.
Yeah.
Super pumped about that. So
Oh yeah.
speaking of gear, you got to give me one for raw and one for equipped. What's your favorite lift raw and what's your favorite lift equipped and why?
Ooh, okay. This is tough. You know, it definitely goes through phases. We all have it where there's like, you know, in one training cycle, just one lift's going particularly well. So all of a sudden that one's like, oh wow, I'm really excited to bench right now. So right now I am pursuing actually some pretty big bench goals. So I would say like my raw bench, I am like within 5 pounds of 200 pounds. And I just, we need to fucking do it. You know, that big marker, you want to hit it and it's just time. So, you know, things have their momentum. But I would say ultimately for both of them, it's got to be the deadlift. It brings out this like inner Hulk in me where I'm just like, I'm going to go fucking crush it. And I just like run up to the bar and just pull for dear life and hope for the best.
That's exactly like how I feel about it though. I mean, like deadlift's my favorite lift. And it's just because like you just approach that bar, you're just like, I'm gonna rip this thing off the ground. And like and it just brings out like your inner beast, like for sure.
Definitely. And you know, it's kind of, I know this sounds terrible, but it's like the dumb man's lift, you know, just pull something off the ground and you never really get the chance to psych yourself out. You know, I feel like a squat or a bench, like you have to hold it for a second before you really process how heavy it is. Like deadlift, you just yank it before
That's
you
true.
really
There's none of that. Like where you
so
feel it
no
on you beforehand.
Yeah.
I actually never thought about that. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah, you just grip it and rip it and go. So kind of like less thought involved in the process.
So what would you say like is your biggest struggle as a lifter?
Ooh, biggest. Well, I mean, definitely just like right now, motivation levels are down with this quarantine
Yeah, for sure.
overall. I think that's just like literally I told Ryan today, I admitted, I've been picking and choosing what I want to do on a given day. And ultimately, like all the things written on the program eventually get done by the end of the week. But it's kind of like a haphazard like order. And I know he writes programs for a reason and I would know better. You know, like I pay for like I totally know I should be doing better. But sometimes you just need to do what you can to get in there. So definitely just like staying on top of program is a big one. Staying on top of the daily work is another one. Not necessarily weakness, but so Ryan writes in the daily, like this extra banded daily work. And, you know, I know people have different feelings about band work. But truthfully, you know, if you want to be extraordinary, you got to put in that little extra. And the daily work is where it's at. Like if you want to be a world champion, and I know that sounds stupid, but everyone's training the same shit at the end of the day. It's
You're
that little
absolutely right,
extra.
though.
Yeah, no, it's that little extra. So I sometimes slack on the little extra. I'll have cycles. Like when I'm really close to like a competition, I'm like, I'm doing the daily work every single day for at least like a month out. But I need to be better about actually doing it every single day.
Yeah, I'm definitely like with you on the struggle bus right now, like just like kind of picking and choosing what I want to do and just like whatever's going to get me motivated to get down to the basement that day, like that's what I'm doing. So,
Definitely.
but on the flip side of that, what do you think is your biggest triumph as a lifter?
Biggest triumph, I would say I'm a very technical lifter. And I think I picked up an appreciation for just the technical component of all sports throughout the sports I've played throughout my life. But I think it actually really carried over from wrestling where, so I don't know if I really talked to you much about my wrestling background.
I had no clue until today that you were a wrestler. So I want to hear about it right now.
Yes. Okay. So So I actually started off in karate when I was 7. So the first 2 sports I really played were soccer. You know, being Spanish, you play soccer right away, and then karate because my mom had her black belt, and she's really big on women being able to defend themselves. So, you know, started doing karate, and in middle school, I was looking for a winter sport to play, and you know, I'm definitely not gonna be on the basketball team. Let's be real. Basketball was not going to be the choice, and there was no real like other winter sports. And I saw a flyer for the co-ed modified wrestling team, and so I suckered one of my friends into doing this with me. I was like, hey, you want to do this? So it started the 2 of us, 7th grade, joined the wrestling team, and I honestly actually ended up being pretty good at it from my fighting background, and went undefeated my first season. I was like, oh, okay, I kind of like this. Like, let's keep up with it. So I did like really well modified. And then I think, so freshman year, I got thrown to the Sharks pretty much. I got like earned a spot as a starter on the varsity team, kind of by default. They didn't really have any of my weight class. So I ended up starting on the varsity team where I pretty much got my ass handed to me on a silver platter every fucking match, every single time. Literally, of like the 30 something matches I wrestled that year, I won one of them, and it was against like a chubby kid who like was not athletic. So like it wasn't necessarily like the most triumphant of like wins. I didn't take down any form of a champion. But like, you know, like I think seeing that many losses, I feel like I was just like, I want to be good at this. Like, how do I fucking get good? So I literally went to my coach and I was like, what do I have to do to get better? So he told me, this is how I started strength training. So he told me like, I got to start lifting weights. I got to start doing the extra workouts he's going to give us. And I got to go to open mats, and I got to go to wrestling camps throughout the summer. So I was like, okay, fuck yes, we're going to do this. So I pretty much did everything he told me to do. And next season, I came back to a better record. I went 50-50. So, you know, lost some, won some, but a lot better than the previous season. And then pretty much just chiseled my way through that and ended up winning nationals in college, which is crazy. Yeah,
That's
so,
awesome.
you know, I think that's kind of like, and even that same triumph, it's more like, I think the struggle is what builds my drive to be better. So I think that's just like a personal trait that wrestling really helped me see, but that same exact thing kind of carried forward into powerlifting, you know? And when things get tough, you got to figure out what's the extra stuff I got to be doing to get this better. Like, how do I get better? And you got to look at what the best are doing and kind of emulate them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
that's where I started.
and I don't know if you've ever, so this is actually a question that I've had kind of mixed responses to, but have you
Yeah.
ever faced any adversity as a female in the strength space specifically?
Oh, definitely. You know, and it's oh, I love this kind of stuff too. So you got the like woman empowerment person coming here. So I'll tell you another fun fact about my wrestling career. So that summer I told you I worked really hard. I went to wrestling camps. And so if you've ever been to a sports camp, it's about like, you know, maybe like 200, 300 kids.
I have never
And
been
now
to a
remember,
sports camp in my life. I just left the couch like 5 years ago.
it's a fun time. It's definitely, it challenges you. It makes you better. You know, you have some technique focused sessions. Anyhow, like 200, 300 kids. And with wrestling, it was 200/300 boys and me. I was literally the only girl in the room amongst teenage boys. I must have been an alien, literally the equivalent of an alien in that room. Because no one wanted to be my friend. No one wanted to be my partner. I had to force kids to be my partner. Literally, like, wouldn't even give them an option. I'd just tell them they were going to be my partner. Because I had to be more assertive. So it taught me how to be assertive, you know, how to stand up for myself in an extremely male-dominated environment. But funny enough, if you earn their respect, they will want you as a leader. So I, you know, just worked my ass off for the sport and ended up getting selected as the varsity captain my senior year of the men's wrestling team. So there's definitely, yeah, like I faced a lot of adversity in the beginning, getting no partners. But then, you know, I really, like I worked twice as hard to earn the respect of my teammates. And by earning their respect, they recognized like the work I was doing and put aside gender and chose someone who was like demonstrating leadership qualities. So, you know, if you just got to fight really hard, you know, it sucks that you got to work twice as hard to earn the respect. But once the respect is there, you can definitely hold your own and be seen as an equal.
Absolutely. So how do you think that being a member of GPT has molded you as an athlete so far?
Oh, I mean, like we're a family and I love that. You know, I think that in general, that's one of the biggest things I'm missing actually in this quarantine. I'm missing you guys. You know, I'm missing my GPT fam. I know I'm missing the support. Even just like, you know, the banter at the gym. Granted, it takes me twice as long to get through my workouts at the gym, but I love it. You know, I just miss talking to everyone, shooting the shit, the camaraderie. And I think for me too is really good finding GPT. After my time on Northeastern, I was kind of a little lost. I didn't really have like a real team, and I kind of just lost that little like team environment. So it's kind of nice to find that again in, you know, what is a pretty individual sport. So, you know, I think that's kind of like some of my favorite stuff about being on Team GPT.
Yeah. So now we've got some like definitely female focused questions. So this is something that you and I were talking about earlier today for sure, which
Okay.
is the stress incontinence part of things.
Oh, yes. You know,
So being is like, we both peed our pants today. Let's talk about it.
definitely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love this conversation. I actually did a whole separate podcast on the pee problem in powerlifting. And I'm working towards getting a women's health certification in physical therapy. But specifically love focusing on urinary incontinence in the female athlete. You know, actually 65% of female athletes experience urinary incontinence across all sports, Mags. So not even lifting.
Really?
Yeah. Gymnastics, jumping, literally marathon runners. They're not wanting to lose time to pee. They're pissing right through it. 4 hours
Wow.
of
I
pee.
didn't even think about
You
that.
just pee through yourself. Yeah, you don't care. So jumping related athletes, running, that's a lot of pressure too. A lot of weightlifting, of course, powerlifting, gymnastics, that's quite common. So it's definitely an issue. I think people shy away from talking about it. But the best way to kind of push forward is to open up that conversation and have it not be like taboo at all.
Absolutely. And so how do you deal with it personally?
So I have a really interesting experience with it. So I actually had like a pelvic floor surgery kind of thing I had to do a while back. And coming back from that, one of the biggest struggles for me was trying to squat without peeing myself. Literally would just like to the heaviest sets would start peeing myself. And being in PT school, we were learning about women's health, PT. And I was like, you know what? Let me be proactive. Let me ask my gynecologist for a referral to women's health physical therapy. And let me go and like see if it'll help. And it was life-changing. You know, it was really helpful. I worked with a really knowledgeable physical therapist. She specifically focused on dancers, but she challenged me really hard in the weird, like, it's challenging not as in, you know, what you're lifting weight-wise, but controlling the smallest of little muscles in your body, but that it works all the time. So you literally like to get that level of brain control, I think is very difficult. And I appreciate that like, you know, the technical components of things. But I think that, you know, that really helped carry over. Naturally, I kind of still struggle on my heaviest sets. I did fall by the wayside on doing my PT exercises. So I know better. I should be doing a little bit more there. See,
I feel like we could all be doing a little bit better in terms of like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. It's like, you know, we talked about weaknesses and we talked about doing that extra stuff, and that's some of that extra stuff that does go by the wayside, but does carry forward to big results later on by not peeing yourself lifting. But yeah, so
not having it be like this like huge distracting thing that you're just like preparing for. Like it's
yeah, definitely. I have to like go to the bathroom between heavy lifts. I'm like scared. I'm like, and like literally I tell Ryan, I'm like, Ryan, I just peed. I don't know how more came out.
Honestly, I'm the same way. I'll go between every set and it doesn't matter. And like, it'll be in not insignificant amount. And I'm just like, where did this even come from? Like,
yeah. No, definitely. Well, you know, fun fact. your bladder does not completely empty when you go to the bathroom, and about 20% is still left behind. So that's the 20% still leaking out of us. Yep. And actually, so this is, I want to like clarify this just for some pelvic floor health, but a lot of the times, especially in athletes, it's not necessarily our ability to squeeze, it's our inability to relax. So pretty much the way it's like your pelvic floor. So I don't know how much you know about the length tension relationship, but we'll talk about it with the biceps to make it nice and easy. So, you know, when you do a full bicep curl, you start fully extended and then come up and then down. And then there's an optimal length for that muscle to work at. So now imagine trying to do your max bicep curl. Instead of starting here, you're starting up here. And you're expecting it to still like squeak out. So pretty much our pelvic floor muscles are starting here. And then we're trying to squeak them out to here. And then the floodgates open and they're like, F you. So they're like, we're going to lengthen even if you don't want us to. And that's pretty much urinary incontinence in a nutshell.
All right. So it's so like, I actually like getting a doctor's perspective on how all this stuff works is super helpful, because honestly, like at the end of the day, like when you're talking to athletes, it's more of an anecdotal kind of thing. And they're just like, don't know why it happens, but I just pee everywhere. So it's like nice to like have that, you know, the clinical side of things too.
Yeah, definitely.
My other question is do you make any training adjustments around your period? Because I know that some people do.
You know, so if you're like really looking at the science, you should like, you know, be programming for that. Funny enough, we actually have a higher pain tolerance during our periods. So you can handle like the gear stuff, especially like smack it on. But like, I don't really change anything, to be fair. Sorry if we're talking about my periods here, but if we're talking about pelvic floor stuff,
we're talking about it.
Yeah, I don't have enough to like really make a difference. And I think that's too, and that's kind of that female athlete thing. So you do have to look at, you know, like especially with lower body fat, how much we work out. Like I don't really get like a period that impacts my lifting even, to be honest. So I just like keep on going through. I actually have it today, like today's the last day of it. Granted, you know, maybe that's why I cried lifting. So you never know. Maybe I should have made some adjustments there. But yeah, that's thoughts on periods and powerlifting.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, because the thing is like I don't typically make adjustments. I just kind of like work with what I've got. If it's a heavy squat day and it's the third day of my period, like it's a heavy squat day and it's the third day of my period. Like that's just the way it's going to go, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely.
But I know that like there are some people that have problems like bracing when they have their period, like especially if they're using like a tampon or a menstrual cup or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
So stuff like that can sometimes, or like energy levels, or sometimes like I've heard like people saying strength levels are different, like during different times of the month, depending on where you are in your cycle. So
definitely, you know, I mean, I will say actually, I do purposely make it so that I don't have my period on competitions.
How? How do you do that?
The beauties of birth control.
Oh, girl. Okay.
Well, the way it worked out, actually, I never even get it on a weekend because the period pills are like Monday through Thursday. So, and usually I always lift on like Friday or Saturday. Like, you know, nationals, I would probably be lifting Friday or Saturday. At a meet, I'd always be lifting Friday or Saturday. So it's like worst case scenario, even if it's the same week, it will never be the same day.
Oh, very nice. See, I always, because of the stress, I always get my period on competition day because I'm not on hormonal birth control. I have an IUD, so I have zero control over when it decides it wants to pop up. So
like, hey, we're here, time to lift.
That was today. That was literally like, I was going downstairs to squat and I was like, oh, apparently this is happening today.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, sometimes weird things like that happen. I used to have this thing where I would get sick before competitions because of nervousness.
Mm-hmm.
Now it doesn't happen to me anymore. But I do get, oh God, and it's like, it's funny because I work with Al, you know, team nutritionist. my weight's always good before the comp. Heck, my weight's pretty good right now. You know, it's pretty much like stays at a pretty level time. And then we keep it level. But for some reason, the week before the meet, it plummets down. Like, it's like my body just doesn't want to hold on to my weight. And I think it's just like between the like nerves, travel. The travel is a big one in particular. And like sometimes I get paranoid about food, especially like trying to travel and like still coordinate what I want to eat and making sure it's the same thing I normally eat during training, and things like that. So I get like, you know, panicky about stupid shit. And then, you know, and it's funny because I creatine load. I literally creatine load, and you're supposed to like bloat and like gain weight. I carb load, I creatine load, and I anticipate a weight gain, and I lose weight. So
I hate you so much.
but like I purposely put myself a little under because I want to. So ideally, I want to weigh in exactly 63 kilos. If I can make that happen every time, you know, right now I pretty much weigh in usually at like 62 out of like, you know, the nerves or whatever. But we've been pushing up a little higher, and Al and I are going to finesse this, you know, and we're going to get it down 63 on the dot.
I believe you. I know you will too.
Make it happen.
One last question for you,
Yeah.
which is, what advice would you give a new female trying to get into strength sports?
I would say get a coach. Definitely like start. Honestly, that's like something I wish that I had just done a little bit better, is like really gotten the technique down initially and like started from a good foundation instead of having to like, you know, pick up some pieces and like fix it later, which you'll always have to do that kind of technique reworking. But I think it helps to really like have someone who knows what they're doing to get you on just like a basic program. Regardless, you're going to get strong regardless. Like this is the first time you're introducing this stimulus. But I would say to find someone who isn't gonna like, you know, go crazy and be like, let's just dump 300 pounds on your back and see what happens. Like, you know, let's just like take it slow, earn your weights, but like show good technique and like build upon a good foundation. And then you'll just keep going 7 years later, and you know, hopefully 50 years later I'll be here still.
And then you're gonna win open Nats when they're eventually here. And
one day
that'll be that.
When I'm in my master's, I don't care like how long I gotta work at this, even if it's at like 85 years old.
So aren't you like 28?
29, but you know, I still got Jen Thompson in my weight class, and it's stacked. You know, to be fair, I do have the best #1 girl in the world is in my weight class. So
that's why you gotta do what I did. You just gotta move up. That's it.
That's also stacked. I love Kelsey McCarthy. She's also not trying to go down that route either. So we're just gonna chisel away and, you know, hopefully one day get the job done.
All right, girl. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and to share your wisdom with us. It was so lovely to have you.
Of course.
For sure. And is there anything else that you want to share with us before we go?
No, that was a good session. I liked this. This was fun, and I'm looking forward to getting to know the other women of GPT as well.
Yay! All right, perfect. Well, then we will see you guys next episode.